He stood over the coffin of his only daughter, the richest black man in the city, crying like a man who had lost everything. No one ever thought a man like Malcolm Kingsley could cry. He was a black billionaire, steel-hearted, sharp-eyed, and feared in boardrooms across 3 continents. His name moved markets. His silence ended meetings. And his presence alone made grown men straighten their backs. Yet on this gray morning, Malcolm stood completely still, staring at a closed mahogany coffin, and the world watched him break. The funeral ground stretched wide and immaculate, carved into green hills reserved for the powerful. Black cars lined the road like obedient soldiers. Media cameras hovered at a distance, hungry but cautious. This was not just a funeral. It was an event. Inside the coffin lay the body of Malcolm's only daughter, Amara Kingsley. At least, that's what everyone believed. She had been declared dead 3 days earlier after a reported car explosion on a private highway. The news spread fast, too fast. By nightfall, headlines screamed, "Billionaire loses daughter in tragic accident." Malcolm hadn't spoken since. He didn't cry when the doctors explained. He didn't react when lawyers flooded his office. He didn't answer when old friends called. But now, standing inches from the coffin, his control finally fractured. His hand trembled as he rested it on the polished wood. His lips parted, and for the first time in decades, his voice cracked. "I failed you," he whispered. No microphone caught those words. No camera zoomed close enough. No one noticed the young woman standing behind a large oak tree at the far edge of the cemetery, her face hidden beneath a dark scarf, her eyes locked on the man beside the coffin, because that woman was Amara. Before we continue, if you love powerful black real-life stories, stories of truth, betrayal, and redemption, subscribe now, because this story gets darker and the ending will shock you. Let's continue. She was still alive, breathing, watching. Her chest tightened as Malcolm bowed his head, shoulders shaking. She had imagined this moment 100 times, imagined him cold, distant, unmoved. But this wasn't part of the plan. Her fingers clenched inside her coat as memories flooded back. The unanswered calls, the secrets she'd uncovered, the warning she'd ignored. "If you dig any deeper," the voice had told her, "you won't make it out alive." Amara swallowed hard. The coffin was lowered slowly. The crowd bowed their heads, and the billionaire who thought he had lost everything whispered one final sentence that made her heart stop. A sentence meant only for the dead. Amara's hands trembled as the coffin disappeared into the ground. She forced herself not to move, not to breathe too loudly, not to cry, because if she did, everything she sacrificed, everything she survived would be for nothing. Just a week ago, she had been alive in a different way, carefree, curious, still believing that her father's world, though ruthless, had rules. That power had limits. She was wrong. It started with a locked folder Amara hadn't meant to snoop. She had gone into Malcolm's private study that night to retrieve an old childhood photo album. Something nostalgic, something harmless. That's when she noticed the safe. It wasn't hidden. Malcolm never hid things. He believed fear worked better in plain sight. The safe was open. Inside was a black folder marked with a single word written in red ink, Amara, her name. Her heart had started racing before she even touched it. Inside were documents, contracts, transfers, surveillance photos. Her face appeared again and again. Locations, times, names circled in ink. She wasn't just his daughter. She was part of something bigger, something dangerous. The final page chilled her blood, a transfer order, offshore. Billions moved quietly through shell companies, and beneath it, a note in her father's handwriting. If she finds out, initiate Protocol Ash. Protocol Ash. Amara didn't know what it meant, but she felt it in her bones. She left the study without closing the safe. That was her first mistake. The second came an hour later when a black SUV began following her through the city. Now, standing at her own funeral, Amara watched men in dark suits scan the crowd. Not mourners, guards, eyes sharp, hands near their coats. They weren't there for Malcolm. They were there to make sure Amara stayed dead. Her gaze locked onto one man near the front, tall, bald, scar slicing down his jaw. He wasn't grieving. He was watching the ground, watching the coffin, waiting. A chill crawled up her spine. Then Malcolm spoke again. "I promised your mother I'd protect you," he said quietly, voice breaking, "even if it meant you hating me." Amara's breath caught. Protect her? From what? The priest signaled the end of the ceremony. People began to move. Conversation started. The illusion of closure settled in. But Amara knew better. This funeral wasn't the end. It was the beginning. And as she turned to leave, a voice spoke behind her, low, calm, terrifying. "You shouldn't be here." Her blood ran cold. Amara didn't turn around, not at first. Her instincts screamed at her to run, but years of growing up around power had taught her one thing. Sudden movement got people killed. "You shouldn't be here," the voice repeated, closer now. Slowly, Amara faced him. He was older than she expected, late 50s, maybe early 60s. Gray hair tucked neatly beneath a cemetery worker's cap. His jacket was faded, his shoes scuffed. A man most people would never notice, but his eyes were sharp. Too sharp. "I could say the same," Amara replied carefully, lowering her voice. "This funeral is private." A faint smile touched his lips, not amused, not friendly. "Not for ghosts," he said. Her pulse slammed against her ribs. She took a step back. "You're mistaken." "No," the man said softly. "You are." Around them, mourners drifted away in small groups. Engines started. Doors closed. The noise of the world slowly returned. But inside Amara's head, everything went silent. "You survived the explosion," the man continued. "Barely. You were pulled from the wreck before the fire spread." Amara's throat tightened. No one was supposed to know that. Not the doctors. Not the police. Not even... "Relax," he said, raising a hand. "If I wanted you dead, you wouldn't be standing here." "Who are you?" she demanded. The man glanced toward Malcolm, who remained near the grave, surrounded by security. His shoulders were slumped now, heavier than before. "My name doesn't matter," the man said. "What matters is that your father thinks you're dead, and some very powerful people want it to stay that way." Amara clenched her fists. "Because of Protocol Ash." The man's expression changed just for a second. "Enough." "So you did see the file," he said. "Tell me what it is," Amara said. "Tell me why someone tried to kill me." The man leaned closer. "Protocol Ash isn't about eliminating threats," he whispered. "It's about removing witnesses." Her breath hitched. "Witnesses to what?" Before he could answer, a black SUV rolled slowly past the cemetery gates. The bald man with the scar sat inside, watching. The cemetery worker straightened. "We can't talk here. You've already been spotted." "By who?" Amara asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he pressed something cold into her palm, a small, battered key. "Locker 317, he said. "Central Station." Then he stepped back, already fading into the crowd. Amara stared at the key, her mind racing. Behind her, Malcolm finally turned away from the grave, and for a brief moment, father and daughter locked eyes across the distance. Malcolm froze. Confusion flickered across his face, but before he could take a step forward, Amara vanished into the crowd, leaving behind questions and a truth that could destroy everything. Amara didn't look back as she left the cemetery. Every instinct told her that if she did, if she slowed down even for a second, someone would grab her arm, whisper her name, and make her disappear for good. She kept walking, past black sedans, past murmuring mourners, past a line of security guards who didn't know they were standing inches away from the very person they were paid to ensure stayed dead. Only when she reached the street did she allow herself to breathe. Her hand tightened around the small metal key in her pocket. Locker 317, Central Station. The city swallowed her whole as she blended into the crowd. Hood up, head down, another face among thousands. But inside, her thoughts were screaming. Protocol Ash removes witnesses. Witnesses to what? An hour later, Amara stood inside Central Station, surrounded by echoes, footsteps, announcements, the metallic screech of trains. The place smelled of oil and urgency. Perfect cover. She moved toward the lockers, her pulse pounding louder with every step. Rows of steel doors stretched endlessly, each one identical. Then she saw it. Her fingers hesitated on the key. This is how traps begin, she thought. Still, she turned it. The locker clicked open. Inside sat a plain black backpack. Amara lifted it out and shut the door, forcing herself to walk calmly toward the restroom before opening it. Once inside a stall, she unzipped the bag. Her breath caught. A burner phone, a flash drive, and a folded document sealed with red wax. Her father's seal. Hand shaking, she broke it open. The first page was a timeline. Dates, locations, names. Names she recognized. Board members, politicians, business partners Malcolm had toasted with at dinner. The second page explained everything. Her father's empire wasn't just built on innovation and ambition. It was built on silence, illegal land seizures, bribed officials. Entire communities erased quietly to make room for billion-dollar projects. And when people talked, they vanished. Protocol Ash wasn't activated often. Only when the risk was personal. Only when the witness was untouchable. Only when the witness was his daughter. Amara's stomach twisted. He didn't do this to protect me, she thought. He did this to protect himself. Her phone vibrated suddenly. The burner phone. Unknown number. She stared at it, fear crawling up her spine, then answered. "Listen carefully," a distorted voice said. "You have 24 hours before they realize you're alive." "Who is this?" Amara whispered. "Someone who buried the wrong body once," the voice replied, "and doesn't plan to do it again." The line went dead. Amara slumped against the stall wall. Outside, a train roared into the station, and far across the city, Malcolm Kingsley sat alone in the back of his car, replaying the moment at the cemetery he couldn't explain, because for one split second, the dead had looked him in the eyes. Malcolm Kingsley had buried many things in his life, enemies, scandals, entire chapters of his past, but doubt was something he had never allowed to live until today. The car door shut softly behind him as his driver pulled away from the cemetery. The city skyline reflected faintly on the tinted windows, but Malcolm barely noticed. His eyes were fixed on his trembling hands. They hadn't shaken like this since the night his wife died. He closed them slowly and saw her again. Not the coffin, not the flowers. Her eyes. For a split second, just one, he had seen them across the crowd. Familiar, alive, accusing. Impossible. Grief plays tricks, his lawyer had told him earlier, especially on men like you. But Malcolm wasn't like most men. He trusted patterns, logic, certainty, and what he felt at the grave hadn't been illusion. It had been recognition. "Turn the car around," Malcolm said suddenly. The driver hesitated. "Sir, back to the cemetery?" As the car changed direction, Malcolm's mind raced. Protocol Ash had been initiated 3 days ago, executed cleanly, verified, or so he had been told. His phone buzzed, a message from a secure number, a SH confirmed, witness eliminated. Malcolm stared at the screen, then typed back a single word. How? Seconds passed. Too many. Finally, a reply appeared. Incident. Body unrecoverable. DNA matched at scene. Malcolm's jaw tightened. DNA could be planted. Bodies could be switched. He knew that better than anyone. The car screeched to a halt as they reached the cemetery entrance, but it was empty now. Fresh dirt lay undisturbed. The crowd was gone. "She was here," Malcolm muttered. "Sir?" the driver asked. "My daughter," he said quietly. "She was here." The driver said nothing. Malcolm stepped out of the car and walked alone toward the grave. He knelt slowly, pressing his palm into the soil. "I did this for you," he whispered. "Everything." A memory surfaced. Amara at 16 standing in his study, asking questions he refused to answer. "Who are those people, Dad? Why does everyone disappear?" He had warned her. She had never listened. Behind him, a voice spoke. "You're not alone, sir." Malcolm turned sharply. The cemetery groundskeeper stood a few feet away, the same man who had worked there for years. Quiet, invisible. "I think," the man continued calmly, "that some funerals are meant to hide the truth." Malcolm studied him, and for the first time in decades, he felt something close to fear. Malcolm didn't answer right away. He remained kneeling by the grave, his palm pressed into the damp soil, as if the ground itself might confess something if he listened closely enough. "Say that again," Malcolm finally said, without turning around. The groundskeeper adjusted his cap. "I said some funerals aren't for the dead," he replied evenly. "They're for the living, and for those who need to believe a lie." Malcolm stood slowly. Up close, the man looked ordinary. Weathered face, calloused hands, no visible weapons, no arrogance. But there was something else. Confidence without bravado, the kind men earned after surviving things they weren't supposed to. "What do you want?" Malcolm asked. "To make sure the right people stay alive," the man said. Malcolm's eyes narrowed. "Careful." The groundskeeper gave a thin smile. "Careful is why she's still breathing." The words struck like a blade. Malcolm grabbed the man by the collar and slammed him against a headstone in one swift motion. Security reacted instantly, but Malcolm raised a hand. They froze. "What did you just say?" Malcolm demanded. The groundskeeper didn't struggle, didn't flinch. "You saw her," he said softly. "You just don't trust yourself enough to believe it." Malcolm's grip tightened. "If this is a game, it's not," the man interrupted. "It's a warning." A long silence stretched between them. Then Malcolm released him. "Explain," Malcolm said. The groundskeeper straightened his jacket. "Your daughter didn't die in that explosion. She was pulled out alive before the fire reached the engine." Malcolm's breath caught. "That's impossible," he said. "I saw the report." "You approved the report," the man replied, "and the people who wrote it answer to you." The truth hit him slowly, cruelly. Protocol ash hadn't protected Amara, it had erased her. "Why tell me this now?" Malcolm asked. "Because the people who want her gone don't know she survived," the man said. "And if they find out you know, she's dead for real." Malcolm's mind raced. Allies became suspects. Every call, every message replayed itself. "Where is she?" he asked. The groundskeeper shook his head. "If I knew, I'd already be dead." A phone vibrated in Malcolm's pocket. Unknown number. The groundskeeper stiffened. "Don't answer that." Malcolm ignored him and picked up. A distorted voice spoke. "You have a problem, Mr. Kingsley. Your daughter isn't as obedient as you hoped." The line went dead. Malcolm slowly lowered the phone. For the first time in his life, power didn't feel like protection. It felt like a noose. Amara hadn't slept. She sat on the edge of a cheap motel bed, lights off, curtains drawn, watching the burner phone like it might explode. 24 hours. That was the window the distorted voice had given her. 24 hours before the people who buried her realized they'd made a mistake. She replayed the contents of the flash drive again and again on her laptop. Video clips, audio recordings, dates stamped clearly, voices she recognized, smooth, confident, laughing as they discussed land deals and relocations. One voice stood out more than the others. Her father's, not shouting, not threatening, calm, controlled, deadly. "You don't need to scare them," Malcolm said in one recording. "Fear fades, absence doesn't." Amara closed the laptop, nausea rising. "He didn't mean for me to hear this," she told herself, but it didn't change the truth. A knock came at the door. 3 slow taps. Amara froze. Her hand slid under the pillow, fingers curling around the small pistol she'd taken from the backpack. She hadn't wanted it. She'd never fired one before. "Housekeeping," a voice called. It was the wrong time. Her heart pounded as she moved silently to the door and peeked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. Then her phone buzzed. "Don't open it!" A second knock followed, harder this time. "Ms. Rivers," the voice said calmly, "we know you're awake." Her breath hitched. They had her name. "Open the door," the voice continued. "We just want to talk." Her mind raced. Run? Hide? Fight? The window was barred. The back door was too loud. Then her laptop chimed. An incoming message appeared on the screen. "Lock the bathroom. Turn on the shower. Now." She didn't hesitate. Amara sprinted to the bathroom, locked the door, and twisted the shower on full blast. Steam filled the small space as the door behind her splintered under a heavy udar. She climbed onto the toilet, pushed the ceiling panel open, and pulled herself up just as footsteps rushed inside. Below her, men searched the room. "She's here," one of them said. "She's close." Amara held her breath in the darkness above, clutching the pistol, tears burning her eyes. And miles away, Malcolm Kingsley stared at a map of the city, realizing with cold certainty his daughter was being hunted. Amara stayed frozen above the ceiling, every muscle screaming. Dust drifted into her hair, the metal frame pressed painfully into her ribs. Below her, boots moved across the motel floor, slow, deliberate, confident. They weren't rushing. That scared her more than shouting ever could. "She didn't get far," one man said. Check the bathroom again. The shower curtain ripped open, water splashed violently against tile. Another voice spoke, calm and irritated. She's not stupid. Look up. Amara's heart slammed so hard she thought they could hear it. A flashlight beam cut through the steam, sweeping across the ceiling. It paused inches from the loose panel she was hiding behind. She tightened her grip on the pistol. If they open it, I shoot, she told herself. If I miss, I die. The light moved on. Nothing, the man said. She slipped out. A long silence followed. Then footsteps retreated. The motel door slammed. Amara didn't move. 5 seconds passed. 10. 30. Only when her phone vibrated silently in her pocket did she allow herself to breathe. Now, run. She pushed the panel aside and dropped into the bathroom, landing hard. Pain shot up her ankle, but she ignored it, grabbing the backpack and climbing out through the broken window at the back. Cold night air hit her lungs as she ran. She didn't stop until she reached the alley 3 blocks away, collapsing behind a dumpster, gasping for breath. Her phone buzzed again. You did well, but they won't make the same mistake twice. Who are you? She whispered. A pause, then, someone who knows your father better than you do. Her stomach twisted. Why help me? She typed. This time, the response took longer. Because once, a man like your father buried someone I loved and thought the truth died with them. Amara stared at the screen. You said I was a witness, she typed. To what? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then the message arrived. To a war that's been hidden in plain sight. And you're standing at the center of it. Across the city, Malcolm Kingsley slammed his office door shut, locking it behind him. His security detail waited outside, confused but obedient. He poured himself a drink he didn't touch. The voice on the phone replayed in his head. Your daughter isn't as obedient as you hoped. Malcolm stared at the skyline. For the first time, he wasn't sure whether he was the hunter or the prey. Malcolm Kingsley hadn't felt powerless in decades, yet there he stood, alone in his office, surrounded by glass walls and city lights, realizing that every system he had built, every layer of protection, was suddenly useless. Because the threat wasn't outside, it was inside his own empire. He opened the hidden panel behind his desk and removed a second phone, one that had never been logged, never been traced. Bring them all, he said into the receiver, now. Across the city, Amara sat on the floor of an abandoned parking garage, her back against cold concrete, the backpack beside her. Her phone vibrated. You need to understand something. Your father didn't create Protocol Ash. He inherited it. She swallowed. Inherited it from who? A moment passed. From the men who raised him, and from the fear that power creates. Amara closed her eyes. So he chose it, she said. He chose to protect it. Yes, the answer hit harder than denial would have. Then why fake my death? She whispered. The response came quickly this time. Because you were never supposed to be a target. You became one when you learned too much. Her chest tightened. In Malcolm's office, 6 men gathered around the long table. Board members, advisors, men who had stood beside him for years. Trusted, powerful. Someone made a mistake, Malcolm said calmly, and now we're exposed. One man shifted uncomfortably. Another avoided his gaze. The girl is dead, a third said quickly. We verified. Did you? Malcolm interrupted. His voice soft, but dangerous. Silence fell. Malcolm leaned forward. Because if she's alive, whoever approved her elimination without my confirmation has signed their own death warrant. Across the table, the bald man with the scar stiffened. Amara's phone buzzed again. They're turning on each other now. That's good. Confusion buys time. How much time? She typed. Enough for you to choose. Choose what? The reply came slowly. Whether you want justice or truth. Amara stared at the screen. Justice would destroy her father. Truth would destroy everything else. In the office, Malcolm's eyes locked onto the bald man. You, he said quietly. Tell me who gave the order. The man swallowed, and in that moment father and daughter made the same realization. Only one of them would control how this ended. The room felt smaller as Malcolm Kingsley waited for an answer. 6 men, one truth, and a silence so heavy it pressed against his chest. The bald man with the scar finally spoke. It wasn't my idea, he said quickly. It was containment. Standard procedure. Standard? Malcolm repeated, his voice dangerously calm. She accessed restricted files. The man continued. Protocol Ash exists for situations exactly like that. Malcolm stood up slowly. No, he said. Protocol Ash exists to protect the system, not to decide who lives without my word. The man's face drained of color. You should have been informed, he said weakly. Malcolm leaned closer. I should have been obeyed. Across the city, Amara listened as her phone vibrated with another message. They're blaming each other now. Someone will try to clean this up fast. Meaning, she typed, meaning they'll try to kill you again. But this time, quietly. Her jaw tightened. Then I stop hiding. The reply came instantly. That's dangerous. So is letting them control the story, Amara said aloud, though no one could hear her. She opened the flash drive again and scrolled to the final folder, one she hadn't opened yet. Inside was a single video file, dated 2 years earlier. She pressed play. Her father appeared on screen, younger, calmer, sitting alone in his study. If you're watching this, Malcolm said, looking straight into the camera, then I failed. Amara's breath caught. I built Protocol Ash to keep you safe from men worse than me, he continued. But power rots, and if this reaches you, it means the rot reached my home. Tears blurred her vision. I need you to understand something, Malcolm said softly. If the system turns on you, disappear. Let the world think you're dead. It's the only way you survive. Amara slammed the laptop shut, shaking. You planned this, she thought, just not like this. Back in the office, Malcolm's phone buzzed. A secure message appeared, citing unconfirmed, possible survival. Malcolm exhaled slowly. She's alive, he said to the room, and one of you tried to erase her without permission. No one spoke. Malcolm picked up his coat. This meeting is over, he said. If she dies now, I burn this entire empire to the ground. And as he walked out, one man reached for his phone, making a call that could end everything. The moment Malcolm Kingsley left the room, the balance shifted. Doors closed, footsteps faded, and the lie began to breathe. The bald man with the scar waited exactly 3 seconds before pulling out his phone. One last job, he said quietly into the receiver. No mistakes this time. Across the city, Amara felt it before she knew it. That tightening in her chest, that instinct that screamed move. Her phone vibrated. They just authorized a freelance cleanup. Not your father's people. Outsiders. Amara stood up immediately. Where? A pause. Then, everywhere you might go next. Her stomach dropped. So what do I do? She asked. This time, the reply wasn't instant. You stop running alone. Minutes later, Amara slipped into a crowded late-night cafe near the river. Students, truck drivers, people half awake and half forgotten. Perfect cover. She sat in the back booth, hood low, hands wrapped around a cup she wasn't drinking from. The bell above the door chimed. A man walked in, mid-30s, clean-cut, wrong shoes for the weather, eyes that scanned the room too carefully. Amara didn't move. Her phone vibrated beneath the table. Third booth from the door. That's him. Her pulse thundered. "Is he alone?" she typed. Not for long. At the same moment, Malcolm Kingsley stood inside a private hangar, staring at a jet he hadn't used in years. "Get me everyone who ever touched Protocol Ash," he told his head of security. "Names, locations, I want them all." "And the girl?" the man asked carefully. Malcolm paused. "Find her," he said, "but do not approach her." The cafe door chimed again. 2 more men entered. One locked the door behind him. The barista looked up, confused. Amara's breath shortened. "They're not here to capture you," the message appeared. "They're here to erase the question." Amara slid out of the booth and into the narrow hallway toward the restroom. One of the men followed. Her phone buzzed one last time. "If you want to live, trust the man waiting by the fire exit." She turned the corner and nearly collided with the last person she expected to see, the cemetery groundskeeper, standing there, calm, holding the door open. "Time to choose," he said quietly. Behind her, footsteps closed in. Amara didn't hesitate. She ran. The groundskeeper shoved the fire exit door open just as voices erupted behind her. "There!" The alarm screamed as the door burst outward, flooding the alley with red light. Cold air slapped her face as she followed the man through the narrow passage, their footsteps echoing against brick. "Left!" he ordered. They turned sharply just as the cafe door flew open behind them. A gunshot cracked the night. The bullet shattered a bottle against the wall inches from Amara's head. She ducked instinctively, heart hammering. "Move!" the groundskeeper snapped. They sprinted toward a waiting van parked beneath a flickering streetlight. The side door slid open. Inside sat a woman Amara had never seen. Short hair, sharp eyes, laptop already open. "Get in," she said. The van lurched forward the moment the door slammed shut. Gunfire erupted behind them, but they were already gone. Amara collapsed onto the floor, gasping, adrenaline burning through her veins. "You okay?" the woman asked. Amara nodded shakily. "Who are you people?" The groundskeeper removed his cap, revealing closely cropped gray hair and a thin scar near his temple. "People your father never finished burying," he said. The woman turned her laptop toward Amara. On the screen, live footage from traffic cameras, security feeds, satellite views. "They activated external contractors," she explained. "That means your father lost control of the situation." Amara's chest tightened. "He didn't order this." "No," the woman agreed, "but he built the machine that made it possible." Silence filled the van. Then Amara spoke. "You said I wasn't just a witness." The woman nodded. "Your leverage." "Against who?" "Everyone," the groundskeeper said, "including your father." Amara looked down at her hands. "So what's the plan?" she asked. The woman smiled grimly. "We let them think they're winning." Across the city, Malcolm Kingsley received the call. "She escaped," his security chief said. "We lost her again." Malcolm closed his eyes. "Good," he said quietly. The man hesitated. "Sir?" "If they're hunting her without my approval," Malcolm continued, "then someone is afraid." He opened his eyes. "And fear makes people careless." In the van, Amara stared out the window as the city blurred past. For the first time since the explosion, she wasn't running blindly. She was being positioned, and whatever came next would decide not just her fate, but the future of the empire that tried to erase her. The van rolled into an underground garage and stopped. Concrete pillars rose like shadows around them. The engine cut. Silence followed. "This place is off-grid," the woman said, closing her laptop. "No cameras, no signals. No ghosts." Amara stepped out slowly, scanning the space. It felt safe, and that scared her more than danger. The groundskeeper leaned against the van. "Everything your father built runs on two things," he said, "fear and loyalty. Break one, the other collapses." "Which one am I?" Amara asked. He looked at her carefully. "You're proof." Inside the garage office, maps and screens covered the walls. Names were written in red. Lines connected faces to accounts, properties, disappearances. "This is Protocol Ash," the woman explained. "Not just a plan, a network." Amara stared. "My father knew all of this?" "He authorized the first version," the woman said. "Others evolved it." "So I'm not the first?" Amara whispered. "No," the groundskeeper said softly. "Just the one who lived." Amara's phone buzzed. An unknown number. Her heart skipped. She answered without speaking. "Amara," Malcolm's voice said quietly. Her breath caught. "I know you're alive," he continued, "and I know you're scared." Tears welled in her eyes. "You ordered it." "No," Malcolm said, "but I allowed it to exist." Silence stretched between them. "They're moving without me now," he said. "If you surface publicly, they'll kill you before I can stop them." "So you want me to stay dead?" Amara said bitterly. "For now," Malcolm replied, "until I dismantle this." Amara looked at the people around her, the evidence, the names. "You don't dismantle monsters," she said. "You expose them." A sharp inhale on the other end of the line. "If you do this," Malcolm said, "everything I built collapses." "Good," Amara replied. "It was built on graves." She ended the call. The groundskeeper exhaled slowly. "That took courage." "No," Amara said. "That took truth." The woman tapped a key, bringing up a countdown clock on the screen. 48 hours until the board votes to resolve this permanently," she said. Amara straightened her shoulders. "Then we give them something to vote about." Outside, unseen, a car idled in the dark, its driver listening, recording, waiting. The countdown clock glowed red against the dark room. 48 minutes. Each second that ticked away felt like a breath being stolen. "They're calling it a board vote," the woman said, fingers moving quickly across the keyboard. "But it's not." Amara crossed her arms. "Then what is it?" "An execution," the groundskeeper answered. "Yours or theirs." On the screen appeared a secure agenda file. Resolution 9A, Final Containment. Amara read it once, then again. Public narrative control, asset redistribution, permanent closure. "They'll announce my death again," Amara said. "Cleaner this time." "Yes," the woman replied, "and they'll erase every trace of doubt along with it." Amara looked at the wall of faces, men and women in suits, smiling in gala photos, shaking hands with presidents, standing beside her father. "These people watched me grow up," she said quietly. "They gave me birthday gifts." The groundskeeper nodded. "And they'd bury you twice without losing sleep." Silence settled. Then Amara spoke. "What happens if I go public before the vote?" The woman stopped typing. "Chaos." Markets panic, the groundskeeper added. Stock collapses, media frenzy, government investigations. And my father? Amara asked. Both of them hesitated. He loses control, the woman said carefully. Maybe forever. Amara turned away, staring at the concrete wall. She remembered Malcolm teaching her to ride a bike, teaching her chess, teaching her to never trust anyone completely. Including me, she realized now. Her phone buzzed again. A text. You don't have to do this alone. She knew the number. You're running out of time, Malcolm wrote. Let me fix what I broke. Amara typed slowly. You taught me that silence protects the powerful. I won't inherit that lesson. She put the phone down. What do you need from me? She asked the room. The woman smiled grimly. Your face, your voice, and your story. Amara nodded. Then we do it live. The groundskeeper's eyes widened slightly. That's risky. So was pretending I was dead, Amara said. The woman brought up a streaming dashboard, red buttons, warning labels. If we go live, she said, there's no pulling it back. Amara stepped forward. Then don't. Above them, unseen, a listening device transmitted every word to a secured line. And on the other end of that line, a man whispered into a phone, She's going to expose everything. The reply came instantly. Then the vote moves up. The countdown clock blinked violently. 1842:11. They moved the vote, the woman said, her voice tight. It's no longer 48 hours. Amara stepped closer to the screen. How much time do we have? The woman swallowed. Less than 19 hours. The room fell silent. That means they know, the groundskeeper said, or they suspect enough to panic. Amara's pulse steadied instead of spiking. Something inside her hardened. Then we stop reacting, she said. We force their hand. The woman looked up. How? Amara reached into the backpack and pulled out the flash drive. We don't expose everything, she said. Not yet. Both of them stared at her. If we dump it all at once, they'll discredit me, call it grief, manipulation, revenge, Amara continued. They'll muddy the story. So what do we release? The groundskeeper asked. Amara selected a single file, her father's recorded message. If you're watching this, Malcolm's voice echoed faintly from the laptop, then I failed. The woman's eyes widened. That's a controlled burn. Exactly, Amara said. We let the world hear my father admitting the system exists without naming names. That puts pressure on the board, the groundskeeper said slowly. They'll scramble. And scramble people make mistakes, Amara finished. Her phone buzzed. A secure message. They moved the vote because one of them is scared. Find out who? She showed the message to the others. The woman's fingers flew across the keyboard, cross-referencing emergency calls, private jet requests, shell account activity. A name blinked onto the screen, the bald man. He's transferring assets, the woman said, fast, sloppy. He's planning to disappear, the groundskeeper said, just like they tried to make you. Amara's jaw tightened. So he's our crack, she said. At that moment, another message arrived. From Malcolm. I know who ordered it. I can give you his name. Amara closed her eyes. This was the moment he'd been waiting for. Leverage. She typed back one sentence, then say it publicly. Several seconds passed. Then, that would destroy everything. Amara stared at the screen. Yes, she whispered, that's the point. Across the city, Malcolm Kingsley stood alone in his penthouse, staring at the city he once ruled. For the first time, the silence he'd mastered was turning against him, and somewhere deep inside, he realized the truth. The trap wasn't in the lie. It was in finally telling the truth. The red button pulsed on the screen. Live stream. Ready. Amara stood in front of the camera, shoulders squared, breath controlled, a plain black background behind her. No logos, no names, just her face. "This will spread fast," the woman said quietly. "Once we start, there's no hiding again." Amara nodded. "I'm done hiding." The groundskeeper checked his watch. "They'll try to shut it down within minutes." "That's all I need," Amara replied. Her phone buzzed one last time. From Malcolm. "If you do this, you can't undo it." She didn't respond. Instead, she looked into the camera. "Start it." The red light turned solid. Thousands joined instantly, then tens of thousands, then more. Amara spoke calmly. "My name is Amara Kingsley," she said, "and last week the world buried me." Comments exploded. Shock, confusion, disbelief. "I was declared dead after an explosion I survived," she continued. "The funeral you watched was real. The coffin was real. The grief was real." She paused. "But the story you were told was not." She played the recording. Her father's voice filled the stream. "If you're watching this, then I failed." Viewers leaned in. Journalists clipped it. The algorithms woke up. "This system exists," Amara said when the clip ended. "It has a name, and it erases people." The viewer count surged. Inside a glass boardroom, phones began ringing. "Shut it down!" someone shouted. In Malcolm's penthouse, he watched in silence, eyes wet. "She's braver than me," he whispered. Suddenly the stream glitched. The woman swore. "They're attacking the feed." Amara didn't stop. "If anything happens to me after this," she said steadily, "you'll know why." The screen flickered, and then it went black. For 3 terrifying seconds, no one knew what had happened. Then the internet exploded. Clips of Amara's live stream, recorded, mirrored, reposted, spread faster than any shutdown could contain. Her face, her voice, her words. "The world buried me." Inside the underground garage, alarms screamed as the lights flickered. "They cut our primary feed," the woman said, already typing. "But it's too late. Copies are everywhere." Amara exhaled shakily, her knees threatening to give way. "Am I still alive?" she asked quietly. The groundskeeper checked his phone, then looked up with something close to awe. "You're trending in 12 countries." Sirens wailed in the distance. "They'll come for us," he added. "Now." Across the city, chaos erupted. Board members flooded emergency lines. PR teams scrambled. News anchors stumbled over their words as producers fed them updates they didn't fully understand. And Malcolm Kingsley watched the screen in his penthouse, empty now, black and silent, knowing there was no going back. His phone rang. The bald man's name flashed. Malcolm answered. She went public," the man said urgently. "We need to neutralize this now." "You already tried," Malcolm replied calmly. "She accused us," the man pressed. "This ends tonight." "Yes," Malcolm said. "It does." He ended the call. Then he did something he hadn't done in years. He called the authorities. Inside the garage, the woman snapped her laptop shut. "Vehicles approaching," she said. "Multiple." "Police?" Amara asked. The groundskeeper listened carefully. "No, private." Amara straightened. "Then we move." They took the back exit just as headlights flooded the front entrance. Men poured in, shouting orders. But Amara was already gone. Somewhere else in the city, Malcolm Kingsley stepped into a press room filled with flashing cameras. He took the podium. "My daughter is alive," he said into 100 microphones. "And everything she said deserves to be investigated." Gasps filled the room. "I will cooperate fully," Malcolm continued, "no matter the cost." And far from the cameras, the man with the scar realized too late the vote no longer mattered. By morning, the world had changed. Markets opened in panic. Stocks tied to Kingsley Global plunged within minutes. News banners screamed across screens. Analysts spoke in rushed tones, using words they'd never dared say before. Cover-up, disappearances, systematic erasure. Amara watched it all from the back seat of a moving car, the city blurring past the window. "They're freezing accounts," the woman said, scrolling rapidly. "Subpoenas are flying. Government agencies just woke up." Amara said nothing. Her phone buzzed constantly. Unknown numbers, messages she didn't read. "She did it," one headline read. "Billionaire's dead. Daughter shatters silence." The groundskeeper leaned forward from the front seat. "This is the dangerous part." "Because they're desperate?" Amara asked. "No," he replied, "because desperate people don't care who else burns." As if on cue, the woman stiffened. "We just lost 3 whistleblowers," she said quietly. "Car accidents. 2 suicides." Amara's chest tightened. "So they're still killing," she said. "Yes," the woman replied, "but now they're sloppy." Across town, Malcolm Kingsley sat in an interrogation room. No glass walls, no assistants, just him and a recorder. "You're aware this could implicate you," the investigator said. Malcolm nodded. "I built the door. Others decided who walked through it." "Why come forward now?" Malcolm closed his eyes. "Because my daughter forced me to see what I'd normalized." In a secure apartment miles away, the bald man packed a single bag. Passports, cash, a gun. His phone buzzed. A message. "You're too late." His door exploded inward. Back in the car, Amara finally spoke. "This isn't over." The groundskeeper met her eyes in the mirror. "No, this is just the collapse." Amara looked at the city, at the buildings her father helped raise, and the shadows beneath them. "I don't want revenge," she said softly. "I want it to stop." The woman nodded. "Then there's one thing left." Amara turned. "What?" "Testify," the woman said, "not in secret, in daylight." Amara inhaled deeply. For the first time, the idea didn't terrify her. It steadied her. Outside, sirens wailed, not hunting her this time, but chasing ghosts that could no longer hide. And somewhere, in the wreckage of his empire, Malcolm Kingsley realized losing his daughter once had nearly destroyed him. But losing her respect, that was the price he would pay forever. The courthouse steps were already crowded when Amara arrived. Cameras, protesters, supporters, skeptics. People holding signs with her name written in shaky ink, as if they were still unsure she was real. She stepped out of the car slowly. The noise surged. "Amara, is it true? Who ordered it?" The groundskeeper walked beside her, silent. The woman stayed close, eyes scanning every movement. Inside, the courtroom was colder than she expected. Malcolm sat at the front, shoulders straighter than they had been in years, but smaller somehow, older. He turned when he heard her footsteps. Their eyes met. No words passed between them. There were too many years standing in the space between. Amara raised her hand and swore the oath. When she sat, the room held its breath. "State your name," the attorney said. "Amara Kingsley," she replied clearly. A murmur rippled through the room. "Miss Kingsley," the attorney continued. "Can you tell the court why you're here today?" Amara took a breath. "I'm here," she said, "because my death was supposed to make certain people feel safe." Gasps. She spoke steadily, deliberately, every word a stone laid carefully into place. She described the folder, the explosion, the funeral, Protocol Ash. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. That was what made it devastating. When she finished, the attorney nodded. "Do you believe your father intended to kill you?" Amara paused. All eyes turned to her. She glanced at Malcolm. "I believe," she said slowly, "that my father believed the system he built could be controlled." Malcolm lowered his head. "And I believe," she continued, "that systems built on silence eventually turn on everyone." Silence filled the courtroom. Then the judge spoke. "Mr. Kingsley, please stand." Malcolm rose. The man who once commanded rooms now waited for permission to speak. "I loved my daughter," he said hoarsely, "but I loved control more, and that is the truth I will live with." Outside, headlines were already changing, not about a scandal, about a reckoning. As Amara stepped down from the stand, Malcolm finally spoke to her, quietly, urgently. "I never wanted this for you." She stopped, turned. "I know," she said. "That's why it happened." She walked away, and for the first time, Malcolm Kingsley understood. Power had never been the thing he was afraid of losing. It was her. The world didn't end. That surprised everyone. Weeks passed, then months. Kingsley Global was dismantled piece by piece, sold, frozen, investigated. Names fell, deals unraveled. Men who once moved in shadows now stood beneath courtroom lights, blinking, exposed. Protocol Ash became a headline, then a case study, then a warning. Amara didn't become famous the way people expected. She declined interviews, refused book deals, ignored speaking tours. Her face appeared less and less on screens until it belonged to memory instead of spectacle. That was intentional. She worked quietly now with lawyers, activists, families who had lost someone and never known why. She helped build something slower than an empire, but stronger. Accountability. One afternoon, she visited the cemetery alone. The grave was still there, her name carved cleanly into stone. She knelt and brushed dirt from the engraving. "I forgive you," she said softly, "to the past, to the lie, to the girl who once thought silence was safety." Footsteps approached behind her. She didn't turn. "I didn't come to ask for anything," Malcolm said. She nodded. He stood beside her, hands clasped, no guards, no entourage. "I lost everything," he said. "I know," Amara replied. They stood in silence. Finally, Malcolm spoke again. "I wish I'd listened sooner." Amara met his eyes. "So do I." They didn't hug. They didn't reconcile the way stories pretend people do. But they stood there together, breathing the same air, no longer hiding from what they had become. And that was enough. As Amara walked away, she felt lighter, not because the past was erased, but because it no longer owned her. Some stories end with power, some end with forgiveness, but the most dangerous stories, some stories end with power, others end with forgiveness. But the most powerful black stories end with truth. If this story really touched you, don't just watch it in silence. Drop truth in the comments if you believe honesty is worth the cost. And subscribe, because real stories like this deserve to be heard.